Pop Culture Pastor.
All right, Cody. Welcome back, survivors. Today's episode of Pop Culture Pastor Watch Along is brought to you by saucepans.
Yeah.
There was a brief moment where Jeffrey Wright was going on about the saucepans where I'm like, did I switch streams here? What happened?
Is this the Food Network?
And then as things became clear, I was like, oh, this is all a lead up to torture.
So it reminded me a lot of the movie American Psycho.
I've never really seen that one from start to finish.
With Christian Bale.
I'm aware, yeah.
He goes full into Huey Lewis in the news. Way more than anyone should ever know about Huey Lewis in the news. And I'm like, is he doing this with saucepans? And then you betcha.
He was.
It's hip to be square.
But yeah, first of all, there is no amount of into a Huey Lewis that can be wrong. Yeah, we should all be so into Huey Lewis in the news.
Well, if not just only for the music's sake, but also because Huey Lewis was in Oliver and Company.
Yeah, because if this is it, then we need to get back in time because it's the power of love. And I want a new drug, and it's all right.
No.
You want me to go on? I could go on for days, baby. Just the sports album alone. Huey Lewis in the news is a national... Anyways. All right. This is Pop Culture Pastor Watch-Alongs. My name's Dave. Cody's here.
I am.
And we're here to recap...
Huey Lewis in the news.
The Huey Lewis in the news era of the 80s. No, we're here to recap episode 4 of season 2 of The Last of Us. What was the name of this episode? Do we know? I didn't write it down.
I probably should have.
Yeah, I did not. Doesn't matter. It's not important. We start with a cold open, a flashback that the television told me was 2018. We're going back to a Fedra-controlled Seattle.
Been there, done that.
And we've got Fedra officers in full uniform. They're riding in the back of a transport of some sort. And we get this depiction of harsh, cocky Fedra officers, including one played by our guy Josh Peck from Drake and Josh.
I was like, hey, I just watched a movie with you, buddy. It was a horror movie where he and this Australian lady died. It was sad.
It's a Josh Peckazance.
It was.
As he gets the cameo here, and boy, he is like the worst dude here, as he is talking trash about the citizens of Seattle, and they're calling them voters. Was it a little too on the nose? That seemed a little like that played into our political grievances nowadays.
A little bit.
He is cut off by a voice who we find out is Jeffrey Wright, who we know is the future leader of the Wolves, WLF, the Washington Liberation Front. But here, he's a Fedra sergeant. And clearly, Cody, he is disillusioned with Fedra's way of brutality and corruption, as he explains why they're called voters and why they were upset.
As they should be.
Yeah, he's displaying empathy, and this is just a precursor for what's about to happen, my man, because Isaac calms the platoon as they're approached by a bunch of people, and they're kind of boxed in, and he gets out, and it's clear what this has all been is a setup for Isaac to defect.
Defect he does.
The new guy gets lucky because he gets invited out with Isaac. Isaac shakes whoever the leader of the rebels is, opens the transport door, throws in a handful of grenades, closes the door, and they all die terrible deaths.
Rest in peace, Josh.
Josh, you might make it into a later segment. Just saying.
So this was Seattle Day 1 or just Day 1?
Oh, yeah. That was the name of the episode.
Yep.
Yeah. The significance of this scene, obviously, is we see that Isaac is an extreme man. He demonstrates we already see like a narcissistic nature that we can recognize in dictators. But in his mind, he's good.
He is good. He has empathy.
Yeah.
And he calls out jabronis. And if those people hadn't been jabronis, they might have made it later on in the show.
To be fair, Josh Peck was a jabroni.
And his colleagues that were laughing.
All right. He shows mercy to the new guy and he says, make your choice. We'll get back to Isaac because I do think there's a picture being painted of Isaac here that's sort of deep, and I want to get back to that. But credits roll, and then we get back to the present day. Ellie, Dina, Seattle, day one, as in the name of the episode. They are scavenging for medical supplies in an old building. Dina finds something, but doesn't tell Ellie. What did you think that was?
I knew instantly.
Yeah, there's been clues, including Ellie or Dina's inability to keep anything down.
Yes.
But yeah, it seemed like it was pretty obvious what that was. They stumble across a Fedra tank that's overgrown with like moss. Ellie's being a bit too cavalier with the tank lid, making tons of noise.
I'm like, hello. You literally are in a war-torn city that you know at least has some people out there that don't like you, and you're just slamming lids around.
They're kind of looking around. She's looking for ammo. I don't know. We're just kind of, I felt like they were being a bit too cavalier just overall, given that, yes, there are people who are in this WLF who, if they found them, would probably kill them immediately, knowing what they were there for.
Yep.
And Dina's looking through her binoculars, spots the WLF spray painted on the water tower, to which Ellie's like, all right, let's go.
Cool your jets, Mel Gibson.
It's a good thing Ellie has Murtaugh there with her in the form of Dina. So Ellie might last long enough to get her revenge.
Maybe.
Because she being all just like, well, let's just march right in there. What could possibly go wrong? We'll wait a while. We'll see.
Yes.
So Dina talks Ellie down, showing, of course, that Dina is following through on the promise of like she's the brains that's going to keep her alive long enough to get her revenge, maybe. And they end up in a record store, which this was all around a very cool scene with a show that's already built on a lot of nostalgia.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's fair to say this is a significant moment in the episode. They're looking around. You see albums on the shelves from Bob Marley, Andre Previn, Tears for Fears. I was like yelling them out.
Yeah, I was like, oh, I have music from this album.
And the nostalgia does what it does in this episode. It gives you like this kind of almost peaceful reprieve from the chaos of this world. Ellie finds guitars and sets up one of the sweeter moments in the series so far, I think, because we instantly think of Joel and her relationship with Joel, and she picks up the guitar and starts playing for Dina an acoustic version, obviously, she doesn't have a full band, of a.ha.'s 1984 hit, Take On Me.
A.ha.
Yeah, that's them. And it's time for Ellie's playlist. Take On Me is a classic synth pop hit.
It is. I was singing along with Ellie.
Norwegian band a.ha. Did you know they were Norwegian?
I did.
And it was released in 1984, known for its iconic high energy chorus. Can you get that high? Could you hit the high note?
Nope. But I definitely could make out what they say.
Take me. Okay, nope, yeah. Can't get that high.
Honestly, the music video is super iconic.
Yes, well, that's what most people remember from my generation. Is it was like this kind of blend of pencil sketch animation and live action, where they're going in and out like Roger Rabbit style.
Yes,
and
but cooler than Roger Rabbit.
Oh, for sure. The song itself is about love and yearning and the desire to take a chance on a relationship, which obviously fits here with Ellie and Dina.
It's no better to be safe than sorry.
You just want to recite the entire song? Or?
Pretty much.
The song, of course, with it's just her and guitar, it's emotional, it's stripped back, it adds this tender layer, and it's The choice of Take On Me is significant because the sound of the music she's making, it's contrasting this harsh world that she inhabits. It's showing off her vulnerability in this moment with Dina. And it also gives, what I enjoyed the most about this, Cody, is it gives us this heartbreaking moment, as much of the nostalgia does in this show, for the world, the loss of the world that all these characters were a part of. And I think the sadness of the song here, that was always a feel-good song in the 80s, is perfectly executed.
Also, could be a love letter of sorts.
Yeah. It's multi-layered. There's a lot going on here. Take on me, take me on. I'll be gone in a day or two, says the lyrics. All these characters are trying to find a way to hold on to what little beauty exists in their existence.
At least for a day or two.
Dina's reaction, she's moved to tears, which I think a lot of people might have been watching that.
I was not.
Not Cody. Cody, notoriously not a crier.
Yep.
This highlights how Ellie's musical talent has created this kind of emotional bridge, and the walls come down in this rare, beautiful moment of vulnerability among a tough character of Dina. And it just fits well. It fit well. I talked about the nostalgia. It creates a connection. It's reminiscent of Bill and Frank in season 1, which used a Linda Ronstadt song.
Yes. A Linda Ronstadt song I was not super familiar with.
No, me either, but I knew it was Linda Ronstadt. And we get this nice little exchange where Ellie says all those lessons from Joel, and Dina says he taught you well, and Ellie says he did. And it's like, oh, we're not talking about just music now, are we? It was a sweet little moment.
It was at this moment I asked the question, are we still in the zombie apocalypse? Where we have to be quiet and careful because there are cordyceps zombies everywhere?
The scene did its job, Cody. You had to ask. Are we still here? Because I am entranced. No, that's not what you meant. We go straight to cooking with Isaac. So like the counterbalance of these two scenes is obviously crazy. Although it starts off interesting because we get Isaac, who is just talking about these Mauvier saucepans coming on like he's Martha Stewart.
Yep.
And we finally get the camera to pan around as he's heating up the pan, and we realize, oh, we're about to get a torture scene with a naked Seraphite on the floor.
Or
a little too naked for my tastes.
Or one of the village people.
Why? Why is he one of the village people?
Because he's a part of the village group.
Oh, the village group. I think
yes.
I was calling them the Merry Men.
I know you were, and I was calling them the village people.
We have to pick a version of this. Otherwise, it's just going to confuse people. We get this interesting exchange of the contrast between the Seraphite's unwavering faith. He says, she watches over me. She fills my soul. And how these Seraphites see the prophet not just as a leader, but as a divine figure. And we're supposed to get this reinforcement of the importance of religious devotion in their case. And it's going to contrast with the wolves. The Seraphite is not willing to give up information. And it's because he's strong. Like this faith has made them strong, has made it stronger than any fear he might feel. And there's a powerful thing going on here. Cody, another deep theme added to this show. We see the idea of faith versus power. Are we meant to see the strength of faith here, given the wolves' much higher level of technology?
I think that you see how having faith can provide some inner self-confidence and strength. Also, I love the line where he is like, every day there's at least one wolf that leaves you guys.
Yeah, that was great.
But we never leave. And I'm like, oh, in your face, Jeffrey Wright. In your face.
Yeah, and the idea there that like we'll just simply outlast you.
Yes.
You can keep killing us, but eventually you'll be gone. And we'll still be here. And again, there's this idea of faith versus a worldly power And I just dig that this is another theme we're going to see kind of play out, hopefully.
I just want to know who the OG prophet was.
You think they'll get into that? Do you think we'll ever get any backstory on that? How that starts?
I'm trying to think who was big in 2003. I like to think Alanis Morissette.
The prophet is Alanis Morissette.
Yes.
It'd be hilarious if right in the middle of that questioning was like, well, it's a black fly in your Chardonnay. It's a death row pardon just a moment too late. Isn't it ironic? Praise the prophetess.
Exactly.
That would have been amazing. The prophet is Alanis Morissette. We're just going to go with that until we hear otherwise.
Yes. I've seen Dogma.
They get into this really cool exchange, which plays into everything we've been talking about since the Joel dying episode, where the Seraphite says, or actually Isaac starts it off by saying, you killed one of our children. He says, you sent children to kill us, or they go back and forth.
Yes.
Like, you attacked this, you attacked us, you chased us out of here. And we see this thing, which I'm going to go ahead and insert deeper themes right now into the show. The endless back and forth of violence and retaliation between the Seraphites and the wolves. The Seraphites shoot at the wolves because the wolves kill them. The wolves retaliate because the Seraphites break the truce. There's a parallel here to Ellie and Abby's revenge quests, which we have talked in length about. The Seraphite and wolf cycle of violence, as I brought up 2 episodes ago, mirrors this ongoing revenge-driven path of Ellie and Abby and the Middle East. Here's something really interesting that I didn't know until this week. Neil Druckmann, one of the creators of this show, there's a potential metaphorical influence here, as he is the game creator, the co-showrunner. He was born in Israel and raised in the West Bank.
I did know that.
And so that makes tons of sense, Cody, that he is playing around with some of the themes very thoughtfully too, I might add. Because I don't think we're supposed to look at the Seraphites or the wolves and think good guys, bad guys. It's just 2 separate groups.
I am thinking the village people are not completely bad.
Yeah. I mean, it's clear they've both done bad things, but they put it forth in the name of retaliation, which is exactly what we've been talking about. If violence is a cycle, where does it end? This is the larger question that is hanging over this entire season. It prompts you to consider the cost of revenge and whether there's any way out of this cycle. What'd you think about all that, Cody?
That it was very deep, and it does parallel well from the Pacific Northwest to the Middle East of today, or the Middle East of the past forever. I do think that it is easy for us to connect with a side that we either see ourselves in or feel the plight connects more with us that they're facing. And so oftentimes, even if you're not in the conflict, you choose a side.
Yeah.
And like I said, I already sided with the village people because they're like, we're just going to be religious people walking along the path, and then boom, slaughtered.
Yeah, it'd be really interesting to find out where people are lining up on this front and if they were game players or non-game players. Because so far in the show, we have seen a pretty innocent looking version of the Seraphites, which the gamers know, they're deadly.
I imagine there will be a big twist within the next 2 episodes. Yeah. That's my guess. And we won't have the peaceful village people anymore.
That whole scene ends so well because he turns to torture him some more, and the guy's holding his hands out, saying, "Burn me," basically. And Jeffrey Wright knows immediately, like, he has a disdain for the faith they have, but also intrinsically knows not going to break him, and just pulls out his gun and shoots him.
Yep. And the new guy is now an older guy, and he's like, about time.
The rest of the episode is going to take place in what ends up in a transit tunnel. Ellie and Dina, they come across a discovery, a pretty shocking discovery, where we see maybe some of the viciousness of the Seraphites as they come across like literally wolves hanging disemboweled.
Well, you mess around, you'll find out.
They see them, Dina Ralphs again.
She is constantly puking.
And we find out that this has just happened as they come across a radio and backup is on the way, and they show up, and Ellie and Dina are forced to scramble. They're hiding. They're trying to get away. They murder a couple wolves immediately, and it happens so fast. I don't think you don't get much time at all to really feel the gravitas of that, because like these are people who were just part of this group who were just doing their jobs.
Yep.
These weren't people that were part of the group that Ellie wants her revenge on. But this also kind of highlights the nature of this world that they're in. They end up, as they're running away, in this transit tunnel. The wolves are closing in around them, and they're using flares. And the flare, just like in Jackson, lands on some cordyceps, and we got a horde, Cody.
With zombie games from this time period, hordes are a big deal. And for a while, I'm like, this show doesn't have enough hordes. But now we're getting hordes like every episode or every other, and I'm feeling better.
How are we feeling about the fire/warmth trope of this season and the zombies? And in particular, how they seem attracted to it?
Well, fungus and spores tend to do more growth and better in the heat. So
what do we think the tropics are like? Yikes. Don't want to head for the equator, I'm thinking.
Head for Alaska.
Ellie and Dina race to get in this subway car. They're narrowly avoiding the infected. This whole scene is intensifying. The stakes are high, and it really kind of showcases the survival horror aspect of the game. And this feels more video gamey. This might be the most video gamey it felt the whole series so far to me.
There's a couple of moments, but this one definitely. Yeah.
The invasion of Jackson felt pretty video gamey. This one felt it in a kind of a smaller scale, individual character sort of way. But in the chaos, Ellie and Dina, as they're trying to escape, they're caught in like this turnstile, and Dina is about to be bitten, and Ellie holds up her arm, and the zombie bites her. They get out. They get into a safe building, and we have Dina holding a gun, pointing it at Ellie, obviously emotional, and Ellie admits that she's immune.
This goes back to something I've had beef with probably since at least the beginning of this season, if not before that. Why wouldn't you tell everyone in Jackson, this girl's immune?
That's a good question.
Because by the time you've killed off the Firefly surgeons, like, okay, so there's no hope for making a cure out of her. If she goes in guns a-blazing, gets bit a couple of times, we're not putting her down like we do some of the other people.
Well, and I read a good argument, too, online about, like, even if Joel had let them go through with it, the Fireflies, they're far from a guarantee that would have ever worked. And then what if they do decide that it works? How do you distribute that?
Yep.
Like, there's no guarantee that your world is ever coming back. It's probably not coming back. So what are you sacrificing yourself for?
And that's why I was always Team Joel.
He was. Cody has never wavered.
And the show has tanked since he's been gone.
He's wearing his vote for Pedro shirt right now.
Pretty much.
So Ellie's explaining poorly, I might add, that she's immune.
Oh, yeah. I was like, girl.
Like, is the goal here for her to not shoot you, Ellie? because I wanted to shoot her just because she was explaining this so badly.
She has bite marks
Yeah.
and scars. Like, just show her. Like, oh, I got bit here in my stomach, and I got bit here on my arm, and now you see I got bit here. I'm going to be fine.
She manages to convince her by saying, I'm going to go sit in that chair and go to sleep. You get a distance and just watch me. I was like, oh, so you get to rest and Dina has to stay up all night?
You jerk.
All of this leads to one of the craziest turning points in an episode I think I've ever seen. Because she wakes up, Dina seems to be convinced. Isabella Merced's acting here through this entire scene was phenomenal. When she's holding the gun to her, the shifting between gratitude and anger and confusion. And then she just sort of blurts out she's pregnant. And I was
Called it.
Like, oh, okay. Well, that was a way to deliver that news. Then it gets weird.
It gets interesting story choices.
Yeah. So after she blurts that out, they've just survived all this. She's been bitten. None of them have showered in weeks.
Yep.
They get physical in the nasty post-apocalyptic fungus land where one of them got bit. Hands everywhere. And, like, listen, Cody, I don't want to get into this. We're pastors. I'm not really into these kind of scenes anyways in my shows. But this one made absolutely no sense. It felt shoehorned in, and I just don't get it. I don't understand. I don't know any humans that would have been the first impulse in that environment. I just don't see it.
Especially since you escaped a horde and wolves now know you are in the area.
They weren't that far away. The horde is still out there.
They are.
Within blocks.
And so I'm like, this is not the time, ladies. And then...
That's the name of our episode. This is not the time, ladies.
But then I'm like, Ellie, this is the moment you should be like, we need to go back.
Yes. That's what I thought she was going to say. I kept waiting for her to be like, and the furthest she gets is, well, I'll go on my revenge quest by myself. And Dina's not going to let her. By the way, before all that happens, they have this weird conversation about the whole pregnancy thing where Ellie's like, I'm going to be a dad. And I'm just like, is anyone going to let Jesse have any say in this? He's the real dad. What?
Well, that's if they make it back to Jackson.
That was all weird. The moment is interrupted by a looming attack from the Seraphites. Ellie hears references to Honora, who was one of the group, and a location. And Dina refuses to let Ellie go alone, as we said. And she's loyal. I don't know how intelligent she is, but she's loyal.
I'm like, oh, this lady and her unborn child are not going to make it.
Yeah. I said the same thing. I was like, oh, she's a goner, isn't she?
Well, hopefully Tommy comes in, guns a-blazing.
Yeah. That's the end of the episode. Credits. It's time for our RIP segment, Cody.
RIP.
We're gathered here today to remember Josh Peck. Once known for his role as the goofy but lovable Drake on Drake and Josh, now tragically remembered as the loudmouth, obnoxious Fedra soldier who bit the dust in the flashback scene at the beginning of episode 4. It's hard to imagine, Cody, a more fitting end for someone who spent all the time we knew him belittling civilians and generally just making the post-apocalyptic world a little less pleasant for everyone else.
He was making me LOL.
At least he died doing what he loved, being the worst. In a world filled with fungal zombies and brutal vengeance, it's the loud ones who always seem to get their comeuppance. Isn't it not, Cody?
It is?
Rest in peace, Josh Peck, soldier guy. But not that much. No, I'm just... Cody, who is your winner of the episode?
Jeffrey Wright.
Yeah.
Like, he's only in 2 scenes.
So good, though.
He is phenomenal in those 2 scenes. And it was at that moment, I'm like, Why is Jeffrey Wright not in more stuff?
He's in a lot of stuff, but yeah, he should be. Why isn't he in any Marvel movies?
Because he's in DC, baby.
What is he in DC?
He's in the Batman.
Oh, that's right. He's Commissioner Gordon. Yeah, my winner is the man, the myth, the legend, Jeffrey Wright. Jeffrey takes the crown this week for the portrayal of Isaac, a smooth-talking, no-nonsense leader of the WLF. I mean, he's got swagger.
He does.
He's playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers.
He knows his saucepans.
He's torturing prisoners, yes, and he defected from his own squad by throwing a handful of explosive devices into the back of a van. But let's be real, he was so calm and collected while doing it. I almost found myself rooting for him. No, actually, no. Not even a little bit. He's too scary. So for his masterclass in chilling leadership and for playing the next big bad in an apocalyptic zombie story so well, joining the ranks of other guys like Negan.
Yeah.
Played by
Jeffrey Dean Morgan.
That's right. And the governor, played by some guy's name I don't remember.
Who was in Doctor Who.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. He's my winner, too. Loser of the episode. Who you got?
For a split second, I thought we were going to have Josh Peck for a while.
We already dumped on Josh a lot, I think.
And so it was either going to be Dina and her queasiness or Josh Peck, and I'll go Josh Peck.
Oh, you're going to go ahead and go with Josh.
Yeah.
He gets the cameo. Has he been getting a lot of work?
He was in that horror movie I watched.
Yeah. Seems like he's been doing some stuff. But yeah, it was an interesting cameo because a lot of people recognized him immediately. Like, oh, that's Josh Peck.
Oh, he's so serious and a jerk.
And he's got amazingly big white teeth for the apocalypse.
Because that's how he rolls.
My loser of the episode's clearly Jesse. Dude lost his girlfriend and now the child he doesn't even know about yet. And he's already being replaced as dad. Apocalypse indeed. It's the apocalypse for Jesse. That poor guy's done nothing but be nice.
I'm a little disappointed that Ellie didn't sing Jesse's Girl. Just a little.
Wait, how has that not been on Ellie's playlist yet?
I don't know.
That's gotta come up if they make it back and they have to talk this situation out. That's got to be the song, right?
Fingers crossed.
Yeah. All right, Cody, how many Moviel saucepans out of 10 are you giving this episode?
Like a 6.5.
Yeah.
I honestly think the best scenes were with Jeffrey Wright, and then everything else was a downward spiral that didn't hold up that well for me.
Yeah, I agree. 6.5 for me too. It was an episode where the action sequences was intense. I don't know if I didn't like it as much as the Jackson action sequence. And then the scenes that turns out I really like in this show, which are the scenes where we really dig into these characters and get the feel of the brokenness of them and who they are. That they were just few and far between in this episode. And then you couple it with this show has been pretty consistent on choices. Like, I feel like the characters make human-like choices. And there was a couple this episode where I was like, I don't know what that is. That just felt like you wanted that to happen at some point this season, and this felt like the spot to you, but it doesn't feel like the spot to me.
Like, you can say I love you, buddy. I'm good with it.
Yeah. All right. What did you guys think of this episode of Last of Us? Let us know on the social media posts for this. And of course, if you're not subscribed, you should subscribe so you get all these episodes immediately sent to whatever your podcast listening platform of choice is. And keep following and listening. And thank you so much for doing that. We'll see you next time.